Governor Inslee announced those canceled pay raises and furloughs for thousands and thousands of state employees today, causing some concern within the union that represents them. Governor Inslee canceled a 3% pay increase for about 5,600 general government employees, with some exceptions. He also said more than 40,000 state employees will have to take one furlough day per week through July 25th. After that, they'll need to take one day per month, at least through fall. The state estimates this will save $55 million over the next year. The Washington Federation of State Employees said members still have to vote on the furlough, but they are recommending it to prevent layoffs.
We do understand that given the dire economic reality, there's going to have to be spending reductions, and the furloughs, in our opinion, is the best way to do that in order to avoid, again, cutting vital public services or laying off people and people losing their jobs.
Mike Yastrzemski says even if their members approve the furloughs, he doesn't want lawmakers to lose sight of other funding solutions, especially in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, when many Federation members have been essential workers.
I do think that if we actually fixed our upside-down revenue system in this state, that would have helped to have mitigated what we're going through right now. To take those people who've been really carrying us through and turn around and say, hey, thanks for that work, but now, you may lose your job or something like that. Like, you don't reward hard, dedicated work during a crisis with pink slips.
Those furloughs don't apply to some critical employees that would require someone else to be brought in to cover. The governor is also asking folks not under his jurisdiction, like courts, lawmakers, and higher ed and elected officials, to take similar measures. In Seattle, I'm Michael Crow, King 5 News.